Ever notice how an Australian accent sounds so different from a New Zealand one, even though they're basically neighbors? Well, today, we're diving into the fascinating story of how English put down new roots and completely evolved in the Southern Hemisphere. So, the story of English down south is really a story about journeys. It all kicked off in the late 18th and early 19th centuries with British colonial settlement. But you have to remember, this wasn't just one single event. It was a whole series of migrations, each planting the seeds for totally new ways of speaking English. All right, our first stop is Australia. Let's dig into how the unique history of this continent shaped a brand new dialect of English. You can pretty much trace the birth of Australian English back to the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788. And this wasn't just a political event, it was a massive linguistic one. A whole new chapter for the English language was just about to be written. Just imagine a huge melting pot, but for accents. That's basically what happened in early Australia. The English spoken there was this incredible blend of accents from all over the British Isles. You had Londoners, Irish, Scots, people from Lancashire, all thrown together. This linguistic cocktail is what eventually created the Australian accent we recognize today. But here's the thing, not all Australian accents are the same. Linguists actually identify three main types. General is the one you're most likely to hear. It's spoken by about half the population. Then there's the broad accent, which is that classic stereotypical Aussie sound. And finally, you have the cultivated accent, which is much closer to traditional British English. It's a whole fascinating spectrum. Of course, English didn't arrive in an empty land. Aboriginal languages had been spoken in Australia for thousands of years. So when English speakers came across all this unique wildlife and landscape, they naturally adopted words from these languages to describe what they were seeing. Words like kangaroo and boomerang are a perfect testament to this exchange. Now let's hop across the Tasman Sea to New Zealand. You might think the English spoken there would be pretty similar to Australian English, but you'd be surprised by some of its very unique quirks. The real key to understanding the New Zealand accent lies in its vowels. While the first settlers came from similar parts of Britain and Ireland as those in Australia, the specific mix of people was different. This small variation set the stage for a completely unique linguistic journey, one that led to some very distinctive sounds. One of the most fascinating things about New Zealand English is a phenomenon called a vowel shift. Think of it like a chain reaction. When the pronunciation of one vowel starts to move, it kind of pushes the other vowels around to make space. It's like a linguistic dance that has totally reshaped the sound of English in New Zealand. Let's take a look at a classic example. To an outsider, when a New Zealander says the word bed, it can sound a lot like bid, and their word bad can sound like bed. It's a subtle but really significant shift that, as you can imagine, can sometimes lead to some pretty funny misunderstandings.
And this quote right here just perfectly captures that potential for confusion. A guy asks to speak to a girl's father, and he thinks she says he's dead. After a moment of shock, he realizes what she actually said was, "Here's Dad." It's a perfect illustration of that vowel shift in action.
And here's another fun one. In New Zealand English, the vowel sounds in words like beer and bear have pretty much merged. So if a New Zealander offers you a beer, you might not be totally sure if they're talking about a drink or a large furry animal. It's just another way the language has evolved on its own unique path. For our final destination, we're heading to South Africa, a country with a truly remarkable linguistic landscape. The story of English here is all about constant interaction and influence from a whole bunch of other languages. From the very beginning, English in South Africa was just one voice in a huge chorus. It grew up right alongside Dutch, its descendant Afrikaans, and a rich tapestry of indigenous African languages. This constant contact has left a deep and lasting mark on the way English is spoken there today. One of the most distinctive features of South African English is something linguists call the kit split. Now, it sounds a little complicated, but it just means the vowel in a word like kit is pronounced in two different ways depending on the sounds around it. So the I in king sounds different from the I in fit. It's a subtle but very consistent feature that makes the accent so unique. The vocabulary of South African English really shows off its multilingual heritage. You'll hear words from Afrikaans used all the time, like braai for a barbecue or bakkie for a pickup truck. You'll also hear influences from African languages, including the famous click sounds that are a feature of languages like isiXhosa. It's a truly hybrid variety of English. So, we've seen how English has really taken on a life of its own in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. Even though they all share that same British root, they've grown into three distinct and vibrant branches of the English language family. And as you can see here, each of these varieties has its own unique fingerprint. In Australia, it's those wide, open vowel sounds, and the love of shortening words with suffixes like e and o. In New Zealand, it's the famous shifted vowels and the influence of the Maori language. And in South Africa, it's that kit split and the rich vocabulary borrowed from Afrikaans. Three different journeys, three unique outcomes. You know, the story of English is far from over. These examples show us that English isn't some fixed, unchanging language. It's a living, breathing thing that adapts and transforms wherever it goes. It really makes you wonder, as English continues to spread across the globe, what will its next chapter sound like? This video is brought to you by The IELTS Focus, Zalo 0847705973, an English center specializing in IELTS preparation.